Tetsudō no Masami, the Masami of the railway, written by Base Metrovick, aka the Boko Stain. After the incidents where Percy and Thomas scared each other, the two tank engines that had decided to bury the hatchet started pulling Halloween pranks on the other engines instead. At first, Toby was fairly pleased that the two were finally not arguing over silly things like ghosts and dragons. However, they started changing as Percy and Thomas's tricks became more annoying, making more matters worse that Toby himself was the most frequent victim of these pranks. One morning, Toby woke up to a horror sight and looked at Thomas and Percy and realized both their faces were missing. Instead, there were smoke box doors. Percy, Thomas, can you hear me? Toby asked in horror. No response came at first, but then he heard a ghostly whistling, and all of a sudden, a smoke box door fell out to reveal Thomas and Percy's face, both of them screaming at grotesque expressions. "Crikey!" exclaimed Toby in terror. Thomas and Percy both laughed, and Toby just frowned. Later that day, Toby was at the far car when a young girl came out to him. She had brownish red hair, gray eyes, and a height that suggested she was preteen. Toby immediately recognized the young girl as Lucy, his driver's daughter. "Hello, Dad," she said. "So how's work today?" "Very well," said her driver. "Did you have a good day at school?" "I sure did," squeaked Lucy. Then she turned to Toby and noticed he was somewhat downcast. "Hello, Toby. Is something bothering you?" "It's Thomas and Percy pranks during the Halloween," Toby sighed. "I'm glad we're no longer ripping each other about ghosts and dragons at first. But I know I really wish they'd find someone else to pick on." "I see," said Lucy. Toby looked at Lucy's backpack to make a cover for a book called The Complete Encyclopedia of Honorary. "What's an Onryo?" asked Toby curiously. Lucy confused for a moment and realized Toby hadn't noticed her book. "Oh, an Onryo," said Lucy. "That's what goes to Japanese stories. Usually someone who wants revenge on people who torment them in life, or humanity itself. There's actually one that has rails in it. Do you want to hear it?" "Honestly, why not?" said Toby. "I have an hour or so before I leave. What do you think, driver?" "How long should your story take, Lucy?" "About 5 minutes." "Go ahead." When Lucy had finished, Toby chuckled. "Lucy, I have an idea for how we can pull our prank on tank engines." He snickered as Lucy giggled at her final chuckle. When Toby returned home, Thomas, Percy, and Daisy were all sharing ghost stories. Every year on the day, "Boring," shouted Thomas sarcastically. "Never heard that before." "What do you mean, never asked before?" "May I asked Daisy angrily. "What kind of theory was similar to previous stories?" replied Percy. "But the fact they try to end in a way that proves you were ripping off mine." Before I continue, Toby arrived. "I'll stop you three," he said. "The story is clearly child's play compared to the ghost stories of the Tower I heard in my entire mind." "Oh, really?" scoffed Daisy, but Thomas and Percy were seized with intrigue. "Have you heard that many ghost stories from around the world?" asked Thomas. "I'll admit the entire world is an exaggeration," said Toby, "but the one story that has always stood out to me was the land of the rising sun." "You mean Japan?" asked Percy. Toby looked at Percy as he nodded yes at his beginning story. Around the turn of the century, a young girl named Masami Yokota lived in a rural Japanese town. Her town, like many rural ones in Japan, time relying on rails and means linked to the other outside world due to the underdeveloped road system. Every day, Masami and her friends would walk to school along the branch line that linked their town with the city of Yokohama. The line ran within a walking distance of school, so they found it was easy way for them to remember where they were going. To avoid getting hit if a train came by, Masami and her friend would walk aside the tracks running directly on them. This was more than a bit dangerous, but figured it was worth it, since the path along the railway was quicker than any followed the natural road. Unfortunately, this was proved to be a severe mistake for Masami. One day, Masami received a leaf green Khmer coat as a gift. She loved it so much she had to wear it to school next day. When it was time to go, however, Masami walked on the tracks themselves because it had rained the night before, and she didn't want to get kimono dirty too. As the friends were nearing the school, Masami suddenly stopped and felt a strange tug. The kimono had snagged onto a real spike, and Masami couldn't move without possibly causing a tear. "Don't worry," she said to her friends. 8:45, so each passenger train has already passed, so I should be able to get unsnagged myself without worrying. If I'm late and the teacher says, I'll tell her what happened. Masai's friends agreed to the plan. Masai set to work trying to unsnag the chemical. Tragically, none of the girls had been aware that the 8:30 passenger train was running late. When Masami's body was found. It was a gruesome sight. Masami had her leg and left arm severed off, and the rest had been burned by cinders from the engine's firebox. Naturally, Masami was given a funeral, and with a memorial to her was a setup next to her tracks which she died. However, this was not the end of this story at all. Many years later, a photographer came on to a photographer engine involved in a science accident at Harbor, a part of the book on locomotives around the world. When the photo was developed, however, they noticed an unsettling sight in the background. The figure of a girl in the green kimono with a blood bottom half stained in blood, and her face blackened to the point that her features were difficult to make out. The next day, the photographer came to ask anyone to see the same figure. Suddenly, a loud splash was heard, and it revealed that the engine had suddenly moved it by itself and fell to sea where it drowned. An engineer witnessed the event, claiming he saw the girl make an engine move itself, almost technically, but he wasn't taking it serious at the time. Another accident occurred a few months later. While pulling a train throughout the countryside, another engine was exploded. Soon, it was discovered that the driver and fireman who both killed the blast had been driving the engine and ran over Masami. However, this time, no one witnesses claimed to see Masami's figure, so no one bothered trying to link it with the other engines plunged into the sea. One day, however, it would come together. A passenger train run down the street, play a piece of tracks when all of a sudden it threw out of blue. No one was able to find an answer, and until a survivor mentioned appearing on the window seeing a girl in a green kimono facing the train head-on seconds before derailment, and the engine derailed, leaving the rail yard at Nagoya, and a worker claimed he saw the figure too. Everyone now knows the full truth nowadays, and it seems more distractions than accident Masami caused is wider across the world she can go. She's been seen all across the world, far east. She's been in India, Australia, the Middle East. Take her anger around machine that she associated with her death ultimately, and in turn give untimely deaths to humans and rolling stock alike. Where something simply a derailing or failure wreck or sudden damage at all, that needs to extend her reign of terror. The worst part for us, she was allegedly spotted in Belgium last year, which means that Britain is next. Percy and Daisy were spooked and didn't say a word. Thomas, on her hand, still wasn't convinced. Pie, Scott. Ghosts are just in your imagination. Japanese ones are no different. I don't think you'll be saying that when you fall into the ocean, replied Toby Mistress. Anyway, I gotta translate that for tonight, so see you all tomorrow. Time side say no more, wanted to sleep anyway. Crunch, crunch. As he slept, Percy could hear some crunching sounds. They were coming from behind him, so he figured the crew were having early breakfast. His cab until heard sounds of crunch become louder until he realized it sounded nothing like something eating, nothing crunchy. He opened one eye sleeping and let out a scream and quickly cut short. Unfortunately, his scream woke up Thomas. Percy, yeah, there's something. Yikes! Thomas tried to get a look at what was walking in. It was me, petrified like Percy. Thomas, the closest light, quickly, nonetheless, and both opened their eyes and saw the bottom half of the figure. The figure was apparently wearing something green and was stained blood. Near Tang engineer looked at the figure in the eyes. It said that the figure has eyes to begin with. All of a sudden, the figure turned to right, center one direction, and towards Daisy's shed. And Percy both opened their eyes completely and were able to watch as the figure stood to right Daisy. They wanted to wake up Daisy too, but they were afraid of what the figure might do as they say it. The figure then reached his left arm and tried to reach for the door of Daisy's cab. As the ghost tried other ideas. The figure inside moved his arm right as Daisy started moving. At this point, the courage the tank engine finally came to him. Daisy! Called out Thomas. Daisy quickly woke up, and her eyes opened, realized with terror she was moving. Driver, what are you doing? And however, it became too clear that the quail car and her driver was not in the cab at all. Anyone, she began pleading, almost sobbing in terror. Please help me, stop me. Tired of the person could stare at petrified Daisy roll out of the yard and onto the main line. They still heard a whistle in the distance and realized they belonged to Gordon. The only fool, there was nothing to do. They watched as Daisy roll out of the yard onto the branch line. Daisy had no idea how long she'd be seen to run under her power. All she knew is she was soon reaching the junction at the Hanford. Only making out a deep-toned whistle. Up ahead was Henry the goods train. Look out, Henry! The similar swift slam was happening. The quick slept till Daisy finally derailed some track points. Just as she felt her wheels crunch to gravel, Henry finally came to a complete stop. What happened, Daisy? Henry asked Henry in a deep stupor. I don't know. I have no clue, stammered Daisy, still shaken by her near miss. I honestly don't know. Back in the shed for our car. Farquhar sheds. Thomas and Percy were still shaking on what they seen. Thomas asked Percy, "Do you think Daisy would be alright in here?" I can't say for sure," replied Thomas solemnly. "If I had to guess. What if we know something did happen pretty quickly? At this point, the best we can do is get more sleep." Percy agreed, both edges went nervously asleep. Crunch, crunch. The same sound of Percy woke up in a ballast, woke Percy up. Both stared at each other in silent terror and looked down at the rails of their drivers. "Bad news, you two," said Thomas' driver. "Daisy became a runaway and derailed a trap point near Craftford." Thomas and Percy were both feeling that no harm came to them, but still nervous. "The Fat Controller wants you to come and explain what happened last night. The may find out why Daisy became a runaway." "Yes, sir," murmured Thomas. When the 2 Rangers arrived, Daisy was already being derailed and calmed down a bit. "Some workmen were on the night shift. You were two awake when you heard Daisy taken off," said Franklin. "Do you see what happened to make Daisy run away like that?" "We saw some girl in a green stained dress, Sir Thomas," stammered Thomas, and moved Daisy by force," exclaimed Percy. And staring at Percy. "It's true," he continued. "She never got into Daisy's cab. She only stretched out her arm, and Daisy stayed moving as the girl was moving under the shed." "What all the commotion?" asked the voice. "It was Toby and his on footplate with the driver and Lucy in a green Camino that was stained with looked like blood." Thomas and Percy were not moved, it said. "You!" exclaimed Thomas furiously. "You did this, you little brat." "What are you talking about?" asked Lucy, taking it back accusation. "You're the one that made me run away last night," piped in Daisy. "You're the one that nearly made crash in the Gordon's Express. You realize how many people have died because of you?" "But I was asleep the whole night," Lucy protested. "Our prank on Tom and Percy was going to happen during the day." "What prank?" Tom demanded. Now he and Percy were angry. "Toby is tired drive. I've been tired of you pranks you would pull on me since Halloween," explained Toby. So Lucy and Cy decided to come up with a prank of our own. "The plan was that this morning we got back to Fargo. Lucy would dress as a Masami ghost I told you about and pretend to move one of you technically when one of your drivers controlled by a thread tied to your regulator. There was one ran alongside for the Fat Controller, so I spoke up. "Well, Toby, I still believe," he said simply. "I hope it teaches you to understand why pranks are not considerably acceptable and not my railway." "That goes for you too, Thomas Percy." The Fat Controller then turned to Lucy in a fire. "As for you, Mr. Warren, I like to make it clear that children are not my railway property for a wrong reason." "But I never went anywhere on the railway last night," said Lucy again. "It's true, sir," said Toby. "Lucy was still asleep at 1 a.m. We were planning that prank to happen in the morning." "Well, very well," said Toby, said Fat Controller. "I'll keep the investigation open, but you just let this behave yourselves." "Yes, sir," said the engines and the girl quietly. Throughout the rest of the day, the engines went out their teams generally keep themselves until the sheds out the night when Toby was forced to speak up. "I'm sorry I tried to pull that trick on you two," said Toby quietly. "I didn't mean to cause a accident or scare you that badly." "It's fine," said Thomas. "Besides, our president ain't been far pull a prank on you after so long." Agreed. Then a man came and ran to the engines. "Hello," exclaimed Toby. "Driver, what's this?" Then he came out the line with a passenger near Catford, painted the workman. "The entire first coach was crushed like accordion. We believe most of the occupants are dead. All 4 Farquhar and Brand engines were impaled in horror. We all hands on deck," continued Foreman. "So Thomas went to collect some trucks to help clear wreckage. Do you know what caused the wreckage?" Percy asked fiercely. One survivor said most before he saw a figure of the girl standing on the track, apparently wearing a green kimono. Gore said that too. He was wearing a splash on the man and saw a wreck in the distance. "Right," said Thomas. "Let's go, driver. Let's go. Let's get going." Both friends went out to get the trucks to haul away. No one bothered to say anything. They knew too well what happened to Willow. The Tetsudō Masami has finally reached Sodor. The end.